what we're going to be talking about tonight is looking at the top 10 reasons for driving test fails. Why do people fail their driving test?
Hey there! Enjoying this content? Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on more informative content like this. Now let's get back to the lesson.
You would think that if somebody went to the driving test, that the fail or the potential fails are going to be random. In other words, this guy will fail for not observing a roundabout, or this guy will fail for not knowing what to do on a spiral roundabout, or this guy will fail because he didn't deal properly with the crossing. So each and every person has their own area that is problematic for them. And I would say to everybody that apart from your own misnomers about your driving, there are very consistent things that keep coming up as problematic in the driving test. And the one that the examiners will mostly point out to you is that people don't make effective observations at junctions. And I had a situation the other day where the client also what he did was he didn't see the crossroad. The crossroad was badly marked. Yes, it was badly marked, but he should have realized he was coming up to something similar to an unmarked junction. And he actually just drove straight across the unmarked junction. Now, that is observations was put down as an error in observations at a junction. And this is the one that is probably the biggest reason why people fail the driving tests. Now, what I've done tonight is I've taken the 10 top ones and I'm just going to quickly whisk through them. So observations at junctions, which basically means that you're getting to a junction and you're not doing proper observations. Now, one of the things that I have always thought of is that the reason this lack of observations at junctions actually happens, there's a reason for it. And the reason for it is this mirror signal maneuver being isolated from the most important thing, which is the eye. And the eye is identify and planning. So it's really important that you know what to look for to recognize the dangers. This is absolutely, absolutely critical. If you don't know what to look for when you're coming up to a junction, the problem you've got is you can't plan for what you're going to do. You need to identify the junction. And it's often not a question of the person not recognizing what they're coming up to. They don't know which observations are correct for the mini roundabout. And then that turns into an inability to do the proper observations, when in actual fact, it was a planning and identification problem was the source of where the problem came from. So I like to really hammer on identify mirror signal maneuver. And our driving test preparation videos are really about helping you identify what the junction is you're going to see, to teach you to see those junctions. And then as you approach, you should be doing going through a planning process in your head as to where your priorities are. Because obviously, if you're not going to know where the priorities come from, who has priority when you get to that junction, it can be that they'll say, well, you didn't observe properly. But if you don't know where you have to observe, how are you going to observe properly? So it's knowing the junctions and what to look for and what you can take as a given, which doesn't need your observation as much as the actual where the danger is coming from. I hope that makes sense. I like drivers to start with this eye. Start with the identify. Understand what the identify is about. Understand where it comes from. Understand how to deal with that identify. Understand the junctions you're coming up with and identify what is on the roads. Identify what is approaching you, where it's coming from. Identify. Get into the habit of understanding what the signs are. Obviously, you will have to do that anyway for your theory. But when you're driving, it's really important to take notice of things like road markings and various other things. And we did a video on that last week where I talked about the road language. In other words, understanding the road language. Okay. I wonder if I can ask the audience this. If you guys can tell me, if you're coming up to a junction which has no marking and the roads are more or less look the same, and let's say the markings, there are no visible markings at the end of the road, and you're driving up and you come up to a junction like this. Who has priority, and what should your procedure be going through that junction? Who would like to give me an answer on this?
Yeah, maybe when we reach the junction, you look left and right before you make any turn.
Yeah, but if you're going straight, what would you just, what would be the most important thing you would do here?
As if I'm going straight, stop on the junction. Same thing, I'll look left, I'll look right, then I'll proceed if there's no vehicle coming near.
Yeah, I think in general that's the correct. The main thing here is to recognize the fact that there is no priority for you going straight. It doesn't matter where you're coming from.
Yeah.
There is no priority, and you have to be cautious. But if you don't even see the junction, which is where the danger is, when there are no road markings and no signs, and there are the roads like that, where the road has no markings and no road signs. And if there isn't, you have to be really cautious, because you could have a cyclist coming down, and it's how much vision you've got that'll determine what speed you will go through the junction, right? So if you can see a long way up the left and a long way up down the right-hand side, then you should be okay. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Okay, great. Okay. So I think that's a good answer. Yeah. Slow down. But the main thing is recognize it, see it, because even if there are road markings, say there are just giveaway line on your road, if you don't see that, you're not gonna react to it. And then that becomes a lack of observation. Yeah. Okay. All right. So no junction markings. There are places like that here in the UK. All right. So guys, main thing about that is observation. Identify, think, identify the road markings, identify the junction. Look for this type of thing when you're driving. Don't just assume that everything is honky-dory, and then you miss a junction like that, and there's some idiot on a motorbike coming from the right-hand side or something like that. Be really careful, especially when it comes to junctions that are unmarked. And be really careful to observe the junctions that are marked. Okay, not using mirrors correctly when changing direction, for example. Not using mirrors when exiting a roundabout. Now, this is my favorite one. Before you exit a roundabout, you must check your left-hand mirror. So if you are at the exit prior to your exit, you must check that left-hand mirror. That is absolutely critical, guys. That's a big critical thing to do. You have to do that. I have had so many people, they just forget to do it. They think, I'm going out at the second exit, I'm in the left-hand lane, I'm doing it all nicely, I'm going in. But then they put on their left signal to exit, but they don't check their mirror before they do that. You've got to look, because there might be a guy on a scooter or a bicycle, or you might be slightly to the right, and then a motorcyclist or somebody's trying to sneak past you on the left-hand side. There's never a situation where you exit a roundabout and you don't look in your left-hand mirror. Absolutely critical thing to be doing. Okay. So just one thing, in other countries where you have no road markings at a junction like the one we looked at before, don't make the mistake that you only look to the right. Okay. In the UK, there's no such thing as give way to the right except on a roundabout. I'm just saying this because in Australia, for instance, you give way to the right and you don't have to worry about the traffic coming from the left, except if the idiot on the left-hand side didn't see the junction. But theoretically, he needs to give way to you because you are on his right. So almost the rules we have on roundabout. But in the UK, nobody has the right of way here. There is no such thing as you have the right of way from the people on the left or anything like that. The only time that is applicable is possibly in a roundabout, a mini roundabout, or on an open roundabout. But in a situation like what I've got on the screen here at the moment, we have a crossroad with no markings. There's no such thing as give way to traffic on the right. It doesn't exist in this country, okay? All right, so not using mirrors when exiting on a roundabout, and then trying to change lane on a roundabout when a vehicle is directly alongside you. Well, you won't be changing lane. Now, let me ask somebody. This is an interesting question. And this will be interesting for you guys to answer for us. I am in a roundabout and I want to go out at the next exit. And I'm on the inside lane. It's a 2-lane roundabout. It's an open roundabout, 2 lanes. And I'm on the inside lane and I want to go out at the next exit. But there's a guy in his new blue Mini on my left-hand side. And what do? Because now I want to go out at the next exit and he is keeping up with me on the left-hand side and he's going round. He's not going to go out at that exit. What do?
You're going to wait for the person to go and then you follow.
Yeah, that is a possible answer. I would say that is a possible. I wouldn't hold that, okay? Because there might not be enough time to do that. And if you slow down, you don't want to slow down in a roundabout. You want to try and keep your speed because you've got a problem with people behind you. I would not do that. Okay, let's see if someone else can do this one. Okay?
Yeah. For me, I think the best thing is for you to just go around the roundabout again, then exit.
That's correct. So it's better than you don't want to slow down. So you want to just go, you just continue around the roundabout and then take it on the next time you come round. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, now let's see how well you've studied. How many times are you allowed to go around a roundabout without exiting the roundabout? In other words, just continually go around the roundabout. How many times are you allowed to do that legally? There's a legal limit to the number of times you can go around a roundabout.
I don't think there's any. Is there any time limit for that? I don't think there's any.
Yes, and it came about because people on the bigger roundabouts used to go in there and race around the roundabouts.
Oh, okay.
So the government had to put in a rule which limits you to the number of times you can go around the roundabout. So here's an interesting question.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Let's see if someone else wants to give a go. All right.
Okay. Yes. First and foremost, there's no way you can match a brake at the roundabout. You cannot stop for any reason. You just have to slow down your tempo so that by the time you make the second round, because I believe twice is enough to go around the roundabout. The second round should be taking you out of your exit if the traffic is busy.
Yeah. You can move out. Yeah, that's right. You need to adjust. You shouldn't stop on a roundabout. It's not a good practice. Okay. That is true. But the number of times you are legally allowed to go around the roundabout, you haven't got correct. 2 is not the maximum time. Okay. Other than that, what your other answer was correct. Okay. You are legally only allowed to go around a roundabout 3 times. I'm going to ask a question. When you come up to a roundabout, you're going off onto the second exit on the roundabout. You approach the giveaway line and you look into the roundabout and then you move off. When you move off, what is the one thing you've got to be really careful of as you enter the roundabout? What is the key, the one key thing the examiner is looking for you to do when you move off from the side of the road? What is he watching you for like a hawk?
I believe it's the observation.
Okay, yeah, observation is too general. There's something specific in the observations he's waiting for.
Your blind spot.
What does that mean? What does blind spot mean? Is that a spot on your eye or something? What is that?
No, like the area that you can't see, that maybe you look over your shoulder, like left or right.
Yeah, it's your right shoulder. You got to look out the back window over your right shoulder.
Yeah.
You look out. What you got to do is physically look out the back right-hand passenger window. He's looking for you to do that before you move off. Yeah. Okay. All right. And the second thing I've got on here, do you want to go for this one as well, Vivian? You want to try this one? What observation do you have to do twice before you move off after you've done an emergency stop?
Come
on.
The observation I have to do twice.
You have to do an observation twice.
After I've done my emergency. Right.
You're driving along and the examiner says to you, stop, and you hit the brake and the car goes, now what do you have to do? Come on, Vivian.
You start your observation from the right.
No, you don't. That's wrong. You start the observation from the left and you do it all the way around to your right. 360-degree observation. Okay. So now you've done a 360-degree observation. You put your car in park and the examiner says to you, I'm not going to ask you to do that again. Move off when you're ready. What do you have to do now?
You still repeat the observation again, 300.
That's it. 360 degrees again, all the way around. Out the back window, all the way around. Mirrors, front, all the way, and out the back window again before you move off. That observation you have to do twice. You do it when you hit the brakes and you bring the car to a standstill and you make the car safe, and you do it again before you move off. Yeah? Okay?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, guys, now let's move on. So, not moving off safely. How many times does anybody know how many times the examiner is going to pull you over? It's up to 7 times. It's up to 7 times. You can end up doing it up to 7 times. All right. So let's look at something else. Now, positioning on the junctions, guys. This is important for everybody to understand. You need to know what your positioning is in junctions when you're turning right. That is extremely important. You need to position not obstructing the oncoming traffic, okay? Don't position in a way that you obstruct the oncoming traffic. Okay, and when you want to turn right at the end of the road, you need to position to the left. You have to always look at the width of the road where you position on the road. That's really important. Okay. All right. Now I want to ask people, what is this picture all about? This is it's not a new rule because we've been driving to this rule for a long time, but it's been highlighted now. This depicts a new rule in the highway code, and it's actually a picture from the highway code where I've drawn this out. And this is to do with junctions and positioning when you're turning. So this car has come down the road and it wants to turn left, and there's somebody walking on the junction it wants to turn into. What you're looking at here is this single white line here is a boundary line between the major road and the minor road. Okay, and you've got double lines here in the center showing the center of the road. So you've got a small center reservation keeping the cars separated. So what we've got a car here and he's going to turn right. What are the restrictions that are placed on him by this person wanting to cross or crossing this road? And what is it that this picture depicts?
I think it shows that you have to wait for the pedestrian to pass before you continue your journey.
Yes. What you have to do, this car has to wait in what we call the holding position and shouldn't cross that boundary line until this person has crossed all the way to the other side of the road. You can't drive behind this person because the moment they are on the road like that, the road has become similar to a zebra crossing. Okay. All right, guys, we need to get on. Okay. 5, not having proper control of your steering. This is self-evident. You need to be fully in control of your vehicle. You shouldn't be hitting the pavement or going up on the pavement, and you steering too late or you're steering too early or you're oversteering. And this is all about just practicing and understanding which way the car is going to react when you steer. Not responding appropriately to traffic lights. Again, I think this comes down to identification more than it comes down to observations. Because if you're approaching a crossing or a zebra crossing or a traffic light where it's traffic controlled, a puffin crossing or any of those sort of situations, it is identifying what you're dealing with should give you the correct response for your observations. If you are not identifying what you're dealing with when you approach a set of traffic lights or complex lights at a junction and you can't identify it properly, you're going to slip up on the actual observations because you haven't identified what you're dealing with correctly. Okay. So please, guys, again, this comes back to identifying, planning, and understanding what you're dealing with. Then your observations can be done properly. Not responding correctly to traffic signs. Again, identify, plan, understand. Poor positioning on the road during normal driving. Yeah, one of the things you've got to be really careful of, if you're on a highway road, something like the 406 or the A11 or the A1 or the A routes, if you're on any of them, you need to keep to the left-hand lane when you're driving down the road, except when you're overtaking or you have a reason to be in the center lane or the right-hand lane. But for normal driving, you should be in the left-hand lane. If there's a line of trucks in your left-hand lane and they're going slowly, quite comfortably, you are allowed to drive in the overtaking lane. Repeated driving too close to the curb or center of the road, that's just road handling, something we've dealt with before. Now, here I chuck this picture in here because this is the type of thing. If you look on the road coming down from the top of the picture, I have seen so many people make the mistake of not recognizing that junction and not seeing that they're approaching a junction where they don't have priority on the road, because that arrow on the road is not directional. That's the giveaway sign, and you can see down here at the bottom of the road that giveaway sign is clearly depicted, and you can see that's how it is reflected on the road. And as I said to you previously, I had a student go down a road which was like the one coming down from the top, and the examiner hit the brake, and there were 3 of these, one after the other, 3 junctions very similar to this. And I couldn't believe it. The student actually made the same mistake twice more. Couldn't believe it. It was really strange to see that. But again, it's this identify, plan, understand these junctions. Because if you can identify the junction, invariably you know what the observations are. If I told you coming up to a giveaway line, most of you will say, oh, you've got to look left and right. But if you don't know what you're dealing with, if you don't know it's an open roundabout or closed roundabout, then that's a problem. Okay, not responding correctly to road markings. Okay, this is more to do with lane positioning. When you're coming up to a junction, sometimes the left lane, suddenly you're only allowed to turn left. And I want you all to understand this. This is really important. If you're in the left-hand lane, which says left turn only, and you're coming up to a traffic light, don't try and change lanes. Just simply put on your left signal, go left. And that's not a driver error. That's a navigation error. You don't fail for the navigation errors. Okay. This is that not following direction arrows on the road, straddling lanes on a roundabout, flatlining a roundabout, ignoring a box junction. This is where you've got yellow lines which you're not allowed to cross. If you have to wait, you can cross them if the road is clear on the other side. Otherwise, you have to wait at the beginning. Okay, and then the rest this is just maneuvering and not knowing how to park or not knowing your maneuvers correctly, parallel park and so on. Okay, now let's go to this. How to avoid your driving test fail. Guys, I get this so often. When you coming up to your driving test and you're ready for your driving test, you must really, there's 2 things you want your instructor to do. 2 things. 1, he needs to do as many mock tests with you as he possibly can. And the way I normally like to conduct a mock test, maybe I should do a full video on that next time. But there is a really good way to do that, which doesn't waste time. And then you get feedback, you quickly get feedback. And then you can correct the errors and you don't waste hours driving around not getting feedback. There's a really good way to get that. And obviously, instructors should keep proper written records of your driving. You should ask them to keep records for you as well, and you should be checking that. And if anybody is doing private practice with you as well, it's good to keep a logbook. Have a little logbook on your phone on what you've done, what maneuvers you've done. Make sure you do the emergency stop before the test, and then also the other thing. Now, let's go to the question I asked you. This is important for you, whether you are a new driver, a learning driver, or an instructor. You need to know this. You've just approached a normal 2-lane open roundabout, and you at the giveaway line next to a roundabout, and you're about to move off, and there's a car behind you, a little blue Mini with red wheels, and he's going to follow you into the roundabout. What is the biggest danger at this stage for you?
The biggest danger is a collision behind if I decide to slow down my pace.
Yes, why? You're right. If you start to move off, you mustn't become hesitant and stop because you've now seen a car coming, because what will happen is that little blue Mini is going to go up your exhaust pipe at a nice high speed. When you're at the roundabout, don't move into the roundabout unless you are sure you can do it in one movement. You don't stop. You don't hesitate. Because if you hesitate, People behind you can drive into you because they are looking into the roundabout to see if they can go. They're not seeing you stop in front of them. Do you understand?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course you can. Go for it.
Yes. I'm still on the magic roundabout.
Oh, you want to know about the magic roundabout? Yes?
Yeah, there is something that is actually... Now, the magic roundabout, on the far right up, where you have the red barrier sign telling you that the road does not continue.
Yeah.
Now, does it mean nobody goes into that exit?
That could be an entry to a roadworks camp. Do you understand? So they behind that exit, there could be some sort of set of gates or something. Therefore, it's not normally used. But they are doing construction on the roads there, then they will use that entry, and you've got to be aware of it. That's why they give it a roundabout as well. This can you go around this roundabout in the wrong? Is there a wrong direction to go around the main roundabout? If I want to go to the exit that goes to Marlborough, do I have to go down Center, Ring Road, Red One, and then, or can I go straight to Marlborough? So I just turn right on the mini roundabout.
No, you have to go around. You have to go around the Ring Road, the town center.
No, you don't. Because those in between the mini roundabouts will be two directional. So you could go all the way around all the roundabouts, but you could also simply turn right on the first roundabout and then right on the second roundabout, because those roads joining them are actually two-way. That's what makes this a magic roundabout. That's what, but each one of those little blue signs there are actually mini roundabouts. It is an interesting junction. I love it. You know, we had one close to where I live here, and I used to take my students up to this magic. We had one near South End, and we used to drive up there, teach them how to use the highways, and then we'd go and do this South End one. It had 5 just like this. It wasn't this one magic roundabout. It was up there, and I used to love taking them up there because you can get so confused there. But it's brilliant because it teaches you to use one roundabout at a time, one mini roundabout at a time. And that's the other interesting thing that everybody must realize, okay? When you look at a leaderboard, you are always coming in at 6 o'clock. Your road onto the roundabout is the one coming in at the bottom. And that's how you orientate the roundabout to know where you have to navigate to. That's why I brought this up. Again, planning. Information. When you look at the leaderboard, you're getting information. Now you know you can start your mirror signal maneuver and you can plan how to do it. If you had planned to go through all the roundabouts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, before you went out at Marlborough, that's fine. It just means you're going to go all the way around. It's not wrong. It might be easier, but it's not wrong. Okay?
Hi there. If you're enjoying this video and want to see more, head over to www.bds.ac, our interactive video e-learning platform. With BDS Academy, you can learn to drive online from the comfort of your home at your own pace, saving you both time and money. So what are you waiting for? Visit www.bds.ac today. We'll see you there.